liked him, you liked his videos right now because you didn't know about the prior content, that's fine. But when people started telling you things, you'd go look it up. You'd go check it out. You'd want to know. You'd be like, really? Because I didn't know that. And then you'd go see what you think. So people that are real quick to say something else, I'm suspicious that they're, advocating for it, trying to sweep it under the rug, and they think it'll be cool and edgy and get them followers. And there are sick people. They're sicker than they may appear to be. So let's just see what we think about this guy. I don't know. So we'll look at it. Okay, so this is a video by a guy named Genetic Beast. What's interesting is what he says down here. I listened to a little bit of it. I'm not going to play it here because who cares? I don't really want to watch a guy slop up some love on Goat Boy for any amount of time at all. And goes to James Uganda's there talking about some nutrition-related stuff. So here's Jake's comment. gOaTiS is a fraud and a scammer. Did you know he tried to kill his own son? Why are you promoting a wanted fugitive? And then we have a troll comment from MH-RQ8PS. Gosh, I wonder who that could be. Goat Boy or one of his compadres? Duh. Yeah, this guy always rides gOaTiS hard. It's cringe. And then we have the content creator himself, Enhanced Genetics. And he says this. If that's true, why isn't he in jail then? He's not, so it's false. You're fabricating that. You're spelled wrong, of course. Listen, defamation isn't just civil, it's criminal. First of all, that's wrong. Very, very, very rarely is it ever considered a criminal offense, actual defamation, but almost always civil. But nonetheless, this isn't defamatory. You better be careful what you're saying about people on YouTube. And who'd he scam? Gosh, how many names would you like? Again, fake defamatory comments are civil and criminal. No, they're mostly just civil, dude. Again, what makes him a fugitive? Because he's a wanted fugitive? I'm fixing to show you. That's defamatory as well. See, he's going so far into defending gOaTiS. It's not defamatory if he actually is a fugitive, but you just asked what makes him a fugitive. Why didn't you double check on that before you called it defamatory? It's not defamatory, dude. Where's your proof? 4 exclamation points. Did you go and look for any proof? I mean, like if somebody said that to me, I would click on their channel and I'd be like, God, this guy's got some videos about stuff. I wonder what's in the videos. And then I'd maybe click on some links and see what's in the articles and see what people are saying before I said it was definitely defamatory and put all those exclamation marks about where's the proof, because that looks foolish. Of any of these things other than your mouth or rumors. So this guy is deliberately, it looks like to me, spreading the idea that, none of this is true, that he's not interested in knowing the facts, and just said all these things. Could just be that he wanted to make this video and get views, and that this gets attention, or he's too lazy to look it up and he doesn't care, or and he didn't want anybody countering the video that he made, or he's just doing this deliberately and he, wants to pretend that he doesn't know that the guy is all of the above. And he didn't do a good job of it. Now, right here we have Jake saying, what piece of proof would you like? gOaTiS' ex-girlfriend has a channel and has posted all the proof. There is also several documentaries available, some with millions of views, that explain exactly why he's a wanted criminal. So yeah, we have the Lundy Forest channel, at Lundy Forest. That's gOaTiS' ex. She's not only posted all of the proof, but she's now filed a formal legal complaint letter with YouTube, Google, and their parent company, Alphabet, which she's made public. So it's a matter of public record on that as well. Not to mention the fact that the documentaries like Rotten Mangoes, done by Stephanie Sue, very well known, millions have seen it. And before that, a smaller one called Crime's Anatomy by a content creator named Victor in the UK. So yeah, the fact and you can't go look that up and cross-reference, just say documentary, gOaTiS wanted fugitive, you'd come up with one of these results. The fact gOaTiS won't reveal his location or do a live stream when he used to do that all the time is proof he's in hiding right now. He also removed many of his past live streams to cover up evidence. Also, not every wanted, he did that after my court case got going. The first hearing is when I noticed that he took that down, because when I didn't get dismissed and he knew the judge was going to be reviewing everything, he took down the April 2023 live stream, and he took down the Is Incest Natural thing off of Rumble even, because that was part of the writ. But we have screen recordings, screenshots, and everything else. But yeah, he started cleaning house even more than he already had. Removed his live streams. Also, not every wanted criminal gets immediately put in jail, of course. There's a reason he's asking his followers to film his B-roll, and it's because he's scared to go outside and film. So would you like to see the footage of the acid attack? Yeah, the damn crimes were on camera. Would you like to see testimony from the victim? Would you like to see court documents? Would you like to see pics of Diane's house burned down? Would you like to see proof the hitman who performed the attacks was caught and admitted he was hired by gOaTiS? Yep, Ilyas Abdullah admitted that he was hired by gOaTiS multiple times, as did Angelina, and their only connection to the victim is by way of gOaTiS. They didn't know her from Adam and weren't even from the same country. I have all the evidence, and there are several other channels that have all the same evidence that I have. Also, if you ask gOaTiS about any of this, he'll instantly block you. gOaTiS blocks anyone who even asks him a simple question about any of this. Nothing I said is defamatory. It's all the truth. In fact, I might make a video about you next. Yeah, and that's the thing, also, if I had anybody making hit pieces on me about something this serious, I would take them to court. And that's something else that gOaTiS tried to intimidate Diane with threatening her with legal letters. And she wrote to the attorney letting them know the facts, and the attorney dumped him. I also wrote to that attorney, and several other activists did, to let him know the facts just in case he wasn't aware, which he probably wasn't when he took the job of trying to get the videos silenced in the Netherlands. And all gOaTiS wanted was the videos silenced in the Netherlands while Ilyas's trial was going on, so people wouldn't look it up. And he wanted money from Diane, as money grubby as he is. He absolutely would be doing something about all of us. He can't. He can't say where he lives to a court. And he knows that any... because if he approached a courthouse, he would have to say where he lives. So those were just to intimidate and silence evidence. He never went forward with any suit, and he never will. He wouldn't... And he won't go forward with any lawsuits. He couldn't, because you have to approach the court saying who you are and where you live. And he already defrauded that attorney. He also was pretending he was going to live stream soon. He never did that either. So that was at the time when everybody was really looking at all of this, and Ilyas stuff was being put in Dutch media. He was trying to intimidate everybody off the case and pretend he was going to sue everybody. He never did. He can't. He can't approach a courthouse. That was over a year ago. He can't approach a courthouse and say where he's from or where he lives. Because, and if he lied about where he was from or where he lived, then they would, come looking for that. That would be another crime. He also hasn't live streamed since 2023 when Angelina and Ilyas got caught. Then that's when, they fingered him, and he hasn't live streamed since. Around the same time that he was trying to threaten Diane and others off of the case by pretending he would sue everybody, he also was acting like he was about to go live stream. He didn't do that, and hasn't, and can't. So here, Jake says again, here's the playlist of all the evidence that gOaTiS is in fact a wanted criminal. Go ahead and try to debunk any of it. Make a review video showing yourself, proving gOaTiS is innocent. I dare you. And so he attached a playlist there. So yeah, and this guy's had nothing to say on any of that. So yeah, and let me show y'all some other stuff. Alrighty, so this is the warrant, and this is the complete warrant. Amskirch Offenberg with the letterhead at the top. You've got the seal at the bottom. Let me make it a bit bigger and look at it with you. Now, let me show you a few things about the warrant, because you have people who will get online and say, and instead of just saying, well, where's your proof? We don't know. I don't know about any of this, like you would do if you didn't know about any of this. Where can I go look it up is what you'd want to know. And then you'd go and look into it. And then you might say, hey, I can't find the warrant. People that are nefarious are on here saying, I don't know of any warrant. I've never seen any warrant. And they don't really care when you tell them where they can go get the warrant. So let me just go ahead for all those kinds of people, and you won't have any excuses. Here's the freaking warrant. But I've also told you where you can go get your own warrant. And some of you have a lot easier time getting this than we do in the States. Had I not had this copy of the warrant, I would have had to do a motion for judicial assistance to get the warrant, which I could do, by the way. And that means that the court here asks the court there to get the warrant. But I didn't have to do that. I have it. So had this been a fake warrant, by the way, also the attorney that represents YouTube Google asked me if I have something besides a screenshot, and I did. Had this been a fake warrant, that would have been brought up. It wouldn't have been accepted into evidence, and it's a crime to upload fake evidence into a court system like that. I would never have done something like that, and I could be in trouble if I did. So Amskirch Offenberg. So Offenberg is in Baden-Württemberg, which is the region that Marina and Ilyas lived in. And for anyone who doesn't know, Marina Abdullah is Primal Bell. She is gOaTiS Lavishton's girlfriend that he found on a Russian dating site, which we've all seen the site with her picture on it. And she was still married while posting herself on that site. And he got with her, and they hired her husband and daughter to do the crime. She's accused of being there the night of the crime on the warrant, which I've shown on my channel where I've translated this into English. Some people use a document viewer and they've translated it to English that way. I also went into Google Translate and looked at it because of the fact that I wanted to, pit those two translations against each other to get the best translation I could. And then also, like, I learned German for about a year, but I don't know German well whatsoever, and it's been years since I did that. So, but you can look all of this up, and I've done it and I've translated it on my channel before. But generally, I'll show you some of what it says. So that's where they lived. The authorities in the Netherlands approached the court in the region they were living in to have the warrant not only for these people's arrest, but to retrieve the weapons and items used in the attack if they happen to be able to find any. So this is essentially both an arrest and a search warrant. So we have here the telephone number for this court, and it's 0781-9330. And then we have down here, this is the date. So it's January 20th, 2023. This is post the fires that they set. Angelina Sierra Abdullah, that's Promobel's daughter. She's got a tattoo that says Angelina on her arm. And then Beschluss. And then this is, where they were living and everything. Beschuldigden means that you're being accused. Der Beschuldigden, that's Angelina. And let's go down here. And this tells what all they're accused of. Gründe means reasoning. So this lays out their reasoning. And this talks about right here, you can see Nederland. The Netherlands is accusing them of going to Zeeland-Westbrabant. I'm maybe not saying that right, but nonetheless, it's a province in the Netherlands. And Berghamsted in the Zeeland province is where Diane was. And you'll see down here, that's who they attacked. Now, who all is wanted besides Angelina? Because there's warrants for all of them, but this includes everybody, so this is what's good about this. So, Die Beschuldigten, Mary Marina Abdullah, that's Promobel, Angelina Sierra Abdullah, and Ilyas Abdullah on the 22nd of May of 2022. So that's the acid attack and beating prior to the fires, went to Berghamsted in Nederlanden. And this has to do with they wanted to inflict bodily harm at the request of gOaTiS Lagston. See that right there? And I'm not translating every word verbatim, but I have on my channel before. And then we have, who were they doing something? Who did gOaTiS Lagston employ them to do something to? Diane van den Bosch. And it also says he's wanted for separate prosecution. So that's what all this says in here. Now, and I don't use her surname very often, but just to make the point that that's who we're talking about. She didn't want to be doxxed. gOaTiS Lagston forcibly doxxed her online years ago before these attacks. That's another of his YouTube crimes, when he was trying to deploy people to harass her criminally. And yeah, so that's who they attacked. And it goes into what kind of attacks. And he's wanted for separate prosecution also, it says here in these German words here. And you're welcome to get your very own copy and pull it up, blow this up, do whatever you want with it. But right here, we have the Körperverletzung also, just to point that out, that if you look up this body of law, it's a body of law in Germany that has to do with like criminal law. We have several that have to do with bodily harm here, and using weapons against people and things like that, and concealing evidence, which they also did. So I looked all those up at one time. So yeah, and that's also been laid out on my channel. So I don't feel like I should have to do that work over and over and over again to combat lying. So besides the warrant, for anybody, just a general overview for sincere people who don't know what my case is about. So when Diane came back, I've been watching Jake for several years call gOaTiS Lagston out on his various scams and crimes, and that was how I kept up with the case. And I would occasionally look over to see what gOaTiS was doing, because it was all so weird and strange. And other people were doing the same thing, and kind of a group of people that were aware that this was just a train wreck that seemed to be out of control, and they wondered what would ever happen with it. Once he finally did something so seriously horrible, and you hear that he's supposed to have actually attacked Diane, and, you wonder what happened to her. I wonder if she actually is okay, if that really was her. So she came forward and said, yes, that is me. We are not okay. We are in hiding. And he's still online raising money. Now, with my background being legal, I thought that there was stuff people could do about this, obviously. So as a regular person, you can't get people to pay much attention to you, so I thought I'd make some content. and I modeled it after what Jake does just to get the attention on it. Nobody was pretending to be Primal Bell as a parody character, so I did that. But then I started the legal activism. So I started with cybercrime complaint forms. I wasn't going to go right into the courts or anything, because I knew people had been scammed by him. And what scams? Well, we've laid it out on our channels quite a bit. The I want to go see my son scam. He never approached the courts to see his son, but he did threaten to kill him in writing. He threatened to kill him verbally too, which was recorded in a phone conversation that was given to Diane from Catherine. Those are the things he did. And with this most recent contacting an attorney, he didn't mention once anything about wanting to see his son. In fact, when asked how many children he had, he said he had one, which is the daughter he has now. He doesn't consider himself to even have a son. He also allegedly gave that child a black eye. There's pictures of the black eye. And pooped in his drawers. There's pictures of the poop in the drawers. And Ilyas Abdullah says he paid him to throw a Molotov cocktail into the son's bedroom window because that's who they wanted to kill first. Burned alive. That's how much he loves his son and wants to see him, okay? And that's why we're involved in this. So all that being said, all those scams that he ran, besides I want to see my son, besides one where he says that muggers beat up Diane, and we now know that he beat up Diane, per Diane, and also the fact that his story doesn't make any sense. So we have some more. We have I lost my camera, which he said he later found, but he didn't return any of that money. He also was going to go do some vegan events. He decided not to do those vegan events. How many more would you like? Because there actually are more. And he was discussing those in writing with Jazz, his girlfriend that he said wasn't his girlfriend, Jazz, who he's been filmed with, who he was writing with. We have the writing, who he talked about on the phone with Diane about. We have the phone conversations. So he lies about everything. We've caught him in every lie about everything. And so there's plenty of scams and evidence of scams. And that's another element of the case, or the crypto scams. So anyway, my case came about because after all, trying to get their attention on everything and letting them know they do have some liability here for criminal acts committed on their platform, helping wanted fugitives evade arrest, promoting child sex abuse, running scams, all that kind of stuff. Once they have an awareness, there could be liability. Platforms have a lot of protection under Section 230 of the Communications and Decency Act, which in some ways is a good thing when it comes to everything else that has to do with free speech, but not when it comes to a couple of areas. One is child sex abuse, and the other is terroristic crime against a child. So the thing we're doing is we're bringing this into the courts. I brought it into the courts because they won't act. The mandamus action is what I filed, asking them to remove them and turn their identifying info over to law enforcement. So if they won't do that, I'm trying to make them do that. I was willing to do it outside of litigation. Trying to make them not only deplatform them, but turn their information over to law enforcement. And as we've gone on, I've found more and more law pertaining to them having to do that. One would be now the little girl with them, who is considered an endangered child by way of law because her two parents are wanted fugitives. But add to that the fact that gOaTiS has been promoting child sex abuse for about a decade. He's done it on his Feria channel. He's scrubbed it now. If you didn't see that, I don't blame you for not knowing, but now you do. And if you don't just believe me, which is fine, people should want evidence. There's plenty of compilation vid out there of all of this from all of our channels. Also, he right now on Telegram, behind a paywall, has a space, and he does all kinds of things where he talks about incest being monogamy. He has a whole little group of minor attracted persons following him. So he has a long, long history of this, and it's been featured and screen recorded in many of our videos. So him attempting to scrub that content hasn't taken it completely away because people captured it. That is a crime if you've ever done it. He also used to have lots of bots, and he probably still does, of course, but the one named Color Post, which is provably him, Diane has the evidence, and she now has given it to them in a formal legal complaint form. That one was banned. So once you've been banned on anything, you can't have anything else. That's part of their rules, their contract rules. So there's that as well. So scams, violating the rules, all these kinds of things can get him deplatformed. We've been in 4 hearings, or I think it's 3 actually, and then the 4th one's coming up, September 16th. There's one issue where the judge thinks I have standing. I have to get it all judged out and prove it up. But the problem is not all of this other stuff being true or not. It's whether or not I can compel the platform to act being me. How do I have standing? But that not being the case, there are ways in which I could have standing, and breach of contract is one of them because he's been allowed to do things that others have not. And the judge agreed that that makes sense. He didn't even make me file a motion. He went ahead and pushed that forward himself and asked me to draft it up, and that's what I'm doing. So we'll see how it goes on September 16th. And by the way, here's proof of that. Here's the hard copy of the filing. And, you know, it's 14 pages long. The page at the back is really the last 3 pages are the ones that have to do with what I'm working on. Signed by Vincent Chiarello, the judge, Superior Court of Santa Clara. There's the case, 24CV449612. And yeah, so what else was I going to show you? Let me think. So newspaper article links. How come I've never seen it in the news? Well, first of all, you know, there are criminals all the time that have done terrible things, including, you know, raping kids, killing people, and you don't hear about them on the news necessarily, especially when they're still wanted and it's a smaller case. I mean, one woman and child and then another child in danger might not make the news just yet. Doesn't mean their lives don't matter, right? Just because he hasn't killed 500 people yet. I mean, there are people that have done a lot more than this before they get heard about. So we do have, though, news articles, obviously. So let me show you some of that. And I've worked with the person who helped compile all these. So let me just show you per my email here, all of the acid attack articles, arson articles that we have. And Lundy Forest on her channel, one of her videos, she posted all of these. And also, she also posted one where gOaTiS talked to a German newspaper about being wanted, pretending that he didn't know he was wanted prior, but he knows it now, you know? So that was really stupid of him. Talking about it proves you know you're wanted. Primal Bell took down her 2 videos, but we've showcased them on our channels. There's those. And then you have something else that I wanted to show you as well. And I'm kind of pressed for time, so hopefully this video makes sense. So let me show you something else. And there's so much more. But this is the most recent article that someone shared with me. They have this special hokey bunch of human rights laws that are to protect the reputation of anyone who's a public figure, and that's really helped gOaTiS a lot. They've used enough identifiers to have his name there, but until convicted, and even when convicted, because Ilias A was convicted, they are careful not to fully identify people a lot of times. So we have Ilias A from Germany. He was a Kosovoan who lived in Germany, married to Marina Abdullah, and he's 36, and attacked the woman from Berg-Homestead, May 2022, through sulfuric acid. Now, you saw the names on the warrant, so you know who we're talking about here. The man says that the ex-partner of victim Diane forced him to attack, which caused permanent unsightly scars on her body. Who was the man that the warrant said forced him to attack, and who's the ex-partner of victim Diane? gOaTiS Lagstans. Who's gOaTiS Lagstans? gOaTiS or Spheria. And by the way, if you want to dispute that fact, go to the Metro UK article about him stabbing his classmates in Ventspils School in Latvia in 2006. That's still widely available online, showcased in much of our work online as well. And the teacher identified him as indeed being that school stabber. So gOaTiS Lagstans is gOaTiS or Spheria, and his girlfriend is Primal Bell or Marina Abdullah. And they hired Ilias Abdullah and Angelina Abdullah to do the acid attack, beating attack, and 2 arsons. Marina is accused of actually being there for those attacks. gOaTiS, during the trial, it came out that he not only hired them for the attacks and orchestrated it, but he supplied the sulfuric acid and the license plates. Also, he's been caught on CCTV camera at her house before. Sworn affidavit from Catherine Richards says that they were going to do something to her, but they saw that they were on camera. The plot was going to be to kidnap and torture and kill them, her and the child. Didn't work out. They were doing that with a man named Florian Strack. We've all seen the video footage of them there. That's also widely available online. Catherine got away from gOaTiS and did not participate in the attacks. She later made a sworn affidavit and sent that to Middleburg Courthouse. We have that. That's in the court records as well. And then he did finally end up finding some scumbags that would really finish the job with him. But they didn't finish the job. Diane and her son are still alive, and we're trying to help. So, yeah, if you want to know any more, go do some goddamnable research of your own, okay? Because it's certainly there for you. And you look like an idiot doing this shit. I don't want to show what library this is from, because that would be used to locate me, but it's called The Jailhouse Lawyer, and it's by Calvin Duncan, and it's blowing my mind. So I'm going to tell you about it. Something in that book is really true of what's going on here. So the guy in the book, this happened in the 80s, and he was picked up for something he did not do. We don't know yet why they decided to do this to him. And that's another thing I want to point out. You know, one of my pet peeves is wrongfully convicted people. In this case, the wrongful convict is Diane. She's been accused of everything in the kitchen sink in order to defame and destroy her life and even unalive her. And gOaTIS is responsible for this. So I would never go after somebody in such a way where I, even accidentally did something like that to someone if I thought for even a minute I was wrong. So, and it's up to everybody to make up their own mind, but there's ample evidence. Nonetheless, this book, that's what I was trying to tell you about. So this guy was wrongfully convicted in the 80s for, there was a guy shot, and they had 2 black kids, and they were looking for them, and they decided he did it. This girl identified him, and when he finally got a hold of all of the information, because he started using the law library in the prison, he got all these documents, and he was reading through it, and it was all bullshit. He didn't look anything like the guy, and her testimony didn't even match what she'd said that night that she gave on the stand. And we'll find out probably later why she lied, but she lied. He's in there, and first thing that starts happening to him in prison, of course, is all the prison games, the Jailhouse Games. So, they were telling him, you're going to have to beat up your bunkmate in order to prove yourself and keep people away from you. In other words, not get raped or beaten up. So, and he felt bad about this. He didn't want to do this. He wasn't somebody that would shy away from a fight. They made that clear in earlier parts of the book. He was a pretty tough kid who had a pretty tough life. But he thought, I got to find another way to. They were on a particular cell block that if you stayed there, you would have problems. He wanted to get on another one. So he found a clever way to do it. He refused a guard's order, got thrown into another section of the prison where you'd be off of that block. And that took care of that problem, and it also made him look tough, So later on, when he wanted to become what's known as an inmate counsel at Angola, which is a thing where they basically act as attorneys in a way for each other. And he started studying the law and doing all the stuff for his own self and for other people. He wouldn't have been allowed to be in that if he had been super violent before that. So that was smart and clever. And a guy told him, he said, you don't want to go in here and play all these jailhouse games. You need to pay attention to your case, not these jailhouse games. Don't worry about what these people are doing. So this is what I think of with this shit. To a certain degree, yes, we absolutely should combat these people and their disinformation, because of course they're doing that to, obfuscate facts and make people give up caring about it and get their thing to hit the algorithm, and everybody's going to find this wrong information. And it's like a tide hitting over you and you can't fight back. It's so much of it, they think you'll just give up and be like, I'm sick of doing this. But that's not going to happen, because where we're battling you is where it matters. And that's what you're really afraid of. And to a certain extent, you're afraid of our information. So we'll push back. But if you have like a bunch of tar babies coming at people, we'll just come back as much as is necessary. But we're not going to engage you your way. We're not going to play your jailhouse games, because that's all this is. And it's a distraction tactic to overwhelm you with having to answer their garbage over and over and over again. You don't have to do that. Just put the info out there, answer it once or twice, and then they look like they're doing exactly what they're doing. And then we play our games somewhere else. That's why you're hiding all your videos. So we'll talk to you later, everybody. Everybody have a good week. I probably won't make content for a little while. So that's why I went ahead and made one more good video. Anybody that wants to get on TikTok, though, and combat his garbage, there's some very, very sick individuals on TikTok. So, countering some of that, especially for like kids, because kids are the ones you'd be more worried about falling into, believing really wrong things or getting into really sick thinking. It'd be nice to get them thinking a different way and getting them on our side to do the right kind of badassery, because we're the badasses in the room, right? So anyway, talk to you guys later. I'll have some very interesting updates. I found out some very, very, very interesting stuff about what would be a case for Diane in the future, potentially, when I think about that, just my thoughts, and then also this one. So I'll be excited to share some of that with you. A lot of it's kind of mind-blowing. Talk to you guys soon.